Okay guys, in today's tutorial we are going to talk about the queue data structures implementation in JavaScript. So before me there is a website called geeksforgeeks.org. They have an article regarding queue. They say they have a definition of what queues are. They say a queue is a linear structure which follows a particular order in which the operations are performed. The order is first in, first out, meaning the first to be in the queue is the first to be out from the queue. Let's say you have what you see here on a screen. They've used the analogy of consumers, but I'm gonna use an analogy which is used the most of a cars in traffic. Let's say this here labeled front is the first car, then the other block is the second, that and so forth. So this here is the last car, and this is the front car, this is the rear. Then when you say the queue, you perform a queue function, is gonna automatically move out the element which was first to be in the queue, which is our front, is what is gonna be moved. Then when you say enqueue, it's gonna insert the element at the rear, at the back of the queue. So basically that's what it is. Then I have also a Wikipedia page which shows an example implementation of a queue data structure in Ruby, but we're gonna use it in JavaScript. So they have a class that they called a queue, then they initialize an empty array, then they have a function called enqueue which takes a parameter of a element, then that element is pushed into the array. Then the queue what it does, it shift, it has this performance saying from the array shift whatever was first. So we're gonna take this and try and convert this code from Ruby into JavaScript. What you're gonna have, it's a working directory on my desktop. Let me show you. On my desktop I have a working directory called algorithm. I've opened that directory and I have a file called queue.js. So in this file I'm gonna use Node.js to run this app. So this file, we're gonna start with a class which we're gonna call it queue, following the guidance of what they did on the Wikipedia page. Queue, this class, I want it to contain those methods. First I have to initialize the array, right? So I'm gonna say constructor, use this constructor function to initialize an empty array, excuse me for bad code. Then I'm gonna say this dot, what do we call it? Do we have to call it arrays, items, so what? Let us call it elements. Okay, dot elements, assign it to an empty array. Then what we need to have now are functions. First function we're gonna have is an enqueue function which will take an argument of element. Remember our Wikipedia page, they have an enqueue function which takes elements, right? And what does it do? It takes that element and push it into the array. I don't know if push is the right word to use, but yeah, it pushes it into an array. Then we're gonna have another function which we're gonna call the queue. The spelling the queue. Okay, so this the queue will take out the elements from the array. What it does, it uses the shift method. It uses the shift method to take it out. You see it from the array, they use shift. Okay, so we're gonna have also a function that inspect if what's on the front. Like, do you have anything in the front? Remember our gigs for gigs, there is the front, right? Then we're gonna check also if the queue is empty. If there is nothing on the queue, we want to use this method is empty, or we can call it something else. It's so hard to type, and you're talking, you want to make sure that you say the right things, not make mistakes. Yeah, so excuse me for that. Is empty. Then you're gonna have a print. We're gonna have an additional one, which you're gonna say print queue, which we're gonna print the elements. So let's start with our enqueue function. We're gonna have enqueue. We're gonna have enqueue element, and take element as an argument, an element. Then we're gonna say this dot elements, right? Elements dot push, right? It push it into the array. Dot push what? The element. Okay, so we're done with our first function. Let me make this neat. Then we're gonna have the queue, but before we have a queue, it doesn't make logic if you take out something which doesn't exist. So we first need to have a method or a function that will enable us to check if there is something in the queue. Then from knowing that there is something in the queue, then we can be able to dequeue whatever it's in the queue. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come to this method is empty. Then this method we're gonna say is empty, is empty. Then from this function is empty, we're gonna check if it returns nothing. So we say return this dot elements dot length. If it returns 0, it means there is nothing inside the array called elements, right? So now we're gonna check if it's empty at first using this dequeue. Our dequeue, we're gonna first conditionally check if that function returns true. So we're gonna say this dot is empty. If it returns true, this is what we wanted to print. I wanted to print return, okay, the queue is empty. And some people don't say the queue is empty, they say there is an underflow, right? Not an overflow, it has an underflow. Yeah. Then if that function does not return true, let me do this. If that function does not return true, I want it to return this dot elements, this dot elements. Then I'm gonna do what? Shift, perform the shift function. Remember on your Wikipedia page, they have what? They shift from the array. So that's basically the same thing we're doing. We're saying this dot elements which are on the array perform a shift. Okay, then now we wanna check what's the element which is in the front, what's the value of the element in the front. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a method also called front, right? This method called front, I want it to first inspect also if there is elements on the queue. If there is nothing, there is no reason why we are returning something, because there's nothing. So we're gonna conditionally check it using the same code we have above under the queue. This dot is empty. Then what I want it to return, I want it to return no elements. Okay, so then if it's true, if that condition is false, that function return false, then I want it to return this dot element. Then I'm gonna put it an index of 0 here. Okay, so we have all the functions we need except the function to print out, right? It's gonna be nice to have a function for printout. So all the functions that they had on the Wikipedia page, we have them here. Now we are putting our own functions for value adding to this tutorial. So we're gonna say our print elements function, or for simplicity's sake, I'm gonna say print q function. Then this function, what I want to do, I wanna iterate, right? I want to iterate the elements inside for var. Now I'm initializing the loop. Var I assigned to 0, and this dot elements and dot length. Yes, if I, excuse me for that, if I is less than the number of elements in the array, I want it to continue to iterate through, right? So I want to have it to iterate through. Then what I want it to do is to console.log the items, right? So console.log the element, right? I'm gonna say this dot elements, then I'm gonna iterate through I, right? Okay, so this is our code. We have done it. Okay, what I want to do is to have a variable. You know how we work with classes in JavaScript. So I'm gonna have q assigned to new q function. Then what we gonna have is, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this variable q to access the methods I have inside my class. So when I say dot, that's where I able to access the type of method, but I'm gonna do this on console.log, console.log. Okay, which method should we check first? Okay, so we have a front which inspects if the elements are empty, then it returns element if it's true, and no element if it's false. Let's first start with front. For now we don't have anything on the queue, right? We start with this function called front. Okay, as I've told you before, I'm gonna use Node.js to run this app. Then I'm gonna open git bash, then take my terminal, and I'm gonna do this node queue.js. Then let's see what it output. No elements, because we don't have anything yet inside the queue. Okay, let's say now we wanna enqueue something. We're gonna use queue. Okay, let's have this here and don't delete it. Let's copy and paste. Then let's have an enqueue function to see how this works. Enqueue, right, and it takes a parameter of element. Let's put a string called apple, and let's copy and just put a lot of them. Apple, let me say banana. I like fruits. Let me say pears. Ooh, my pears spelling. Let's say pears, and let's say orange. Then let's take this function from here and put it at last. Remember, the code that you have at first will run first, then the one you have at last will run at last. So yeah, then we're gonna have node queue.js and see what it does. Let's say it output undefined, then it output what? Apple. Oh, why they're undefined? Because I have consoles.log. Excuse me about that, guys. Excuse me about that. What I have to do is to perform this operation out of console.log, and I'm gonna take this out. Let me take this bunch of code out. Okay, I'm gonna have orange, I'm gonna have grape, I'm gonna have what? Peach. Okay, so let's run the code again. Node queue it output apple, which was the first to come. If you perform all of these functions on your code, you will see that they work as intended, because I've tested them. So you can either do this and test it yourself to gain more, to be more hands-on and get that experience of doing it yourself. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm intending to do more videos on algorithms on JavaScript. So like the video, subscribe. If you got any questions, use the comment section, and yeah, cheers.